Okay, fam, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over the Grayscale Fibonacci retracement profit targets. So with that being said, let's get it. All right, so before we get started with that, I want to touch up on a piece that we posted on X recently, and that was about Nicky Leaks is what he's known as, or Nick Tomaros, I think is his name. He tends to be, according to what rumor says, he tends to be the mouthpiece for the Fed. So he just came out with a piece basically, in short, suggesting, I don't want to get deep into this, but in short, suggesting that the Fed might actually cut by 50 instead of 25 basis points. So last week, after all the data came out, we pretty much had I think about a 70% chance of a 25 BP cut. Now you guys can see it's 50-50. There's two things I'll say about this. Number one, it's not surprising. The Fed has blackout periods where they can't talk. So it would kind of make sense if they had somebody else do it for them. It's kind of a workaround way to do it where they're not directly violating the rules. It's smart, if you ask me. And number two, I'm not really thinking too much about the idea of a 50 basis point cut. Look, I think that they can afford to cut now. I think if they waited longer, like if unemployment got to 5% and they waited for inflation to hit exactly 2% flat on core and headline inflation, I think they'd be in trouble. So I think it's the right time for them to cut and still create a soft landing because they have to. They really don't have a choice. Again, when Trump gets reelected, there is a chance he could try to replace Powell with a new Fed chair. So anyways, let's go ahead and get into the actual trusts here. So yes, I do expect that crypto is still going to moonshot after the Fed cuts. I have not changed my mind on that. I think we're going to have a bull run going into the end of the year. So we're going to do the local level here, assuming that this is the low. Pretty much the targets we're looking at here is roughly about 83, 126, 172, and $200 respectively. So if I just pull up the little handy dandy calculator here, let's say 200 divided by 13, you're looking at roughly about a 15x. Again, if you have a calculator on your computer, put these numbers in. Based on what you would invest, that would give you an idea of what to expect in terms of returns. And going over the macro Fibonacci retracement, and there's been a lot of debate of whether, is LTCN really going to go to $2,000? Guys, I don't know, okay? I will tell you that everybody and their brother was talking about Dogecoin last cycle, and because of all the hype and all the backing and everybody that was FOMOing into it and everybody was talking about it on TikTok, it went to a $90 billion market cap and did like a 700x. So if enough people get behind something, sure, it's possible. It's possible even with these tiny market caps these things have that it could happen even without all the hype. So macro one, we got 820, we'll say 1340, 1840, and roughly about I'll just say roughly about 2180 on that one. So 2180 divided by, we'll just say 13. $167x. Again, that is possible. I mean, Dogecoin did over a 700x. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty confident that Dogecoin was not the only coin last cycle that did over 100x. Mana did a 200x, so I'm pretty sure there was others out there. Okay, so BCHG, again, swing high to swing low. We're assuming this is the bottom here. So targets would be roughly about $36, $56, $76, and then roughly about 89 respectively. So we got 89 divided by 670, roughly about a 13.25x. And we have put on some more crypto trades. We're going to talk about that in the next video, so keep a lookout for that. And it's not just dividend paying stocks and native crypto. There's also been some additional debit spreads that we put on. So macro scale here, roughly about 98, 159, 220, and then roughly about 255 respectively. So we got 255 divided by 670. This is going to be obviously a massive return, 38x. That's pretty good if you ask me. I mean, you put in $100, you still make 3,800, so not bad, right? Okay, HSEN. Okay, once again, swing high to swing low. And I know, guys, Cesar has his own way of doing things. This is just how we're doing it. Okay, this Fibonacci retracement tool that we're using, there's nothing special about it. We haven't modified it. It's literally just the one that TradingView created. It's simple, it's easy to understand, and it works. So we have 15, 60, 24, roughly about 32 and 37. So going with the top fib level here, which yes, I do think is possible. This is roughly about a 9.25x. And if I go from the recent macro high, which again, a lot of these trusts are not going to have full data during the bull market because they came out late. So just do keep that in mind. Roughly about 48. We'll say 77 on that one, 107, and roughly about $127 respectively. So 127 divided by 4, looking at roughly about a 32x here. ETCG, this one, once the ETH Bitcoin dominance starts basically gaining, so ETH starts gaining on Bitcoin in terms of dominance, I am expecting these ETH trusts to explode massively to the upside. But Bitcoin, you got to remember, Bitcoin has to top out before that happens. So 27, 39, 52, and 59 respectively. Basically what I'm telling you here, and I could be a little off about this, it's possible I could be a little bit off, but if you're looking at the ETH trusts, you would have a little bit more time to accumulate. Okay, so the Bitcoin related trusts or oscillators like LTC and BCHG, you have the least amount of time. ETH, ETCG, you have a little bit more time, and then the rest of the trusts that are altcoin related, you have the most amount of time, is what I'm saying. So 6.5x here. Now I'm going to go over to the macro. So we're looking at roughly about $154, $250, roughly about $345 and $400 respectively. And I really cannot tell y'all how high these are going to go. I can give you estimates, but so 44.5x. So last cycle, when Ethereum, we had the pandemic dump, Ethereum went from, I forget where the level was, down to like $80 a token. I thought that Ethereum might go to like maybe 500 or 1,000. I did not think Ethereum was going to go to almost $5,000. So even though ETH has been number 2 on the list of cryptocurrencies for a long time, I really didn't think it was going to do like a 50 or 60x. So again, any of these estimates could be wildly undervalued or underestimated. It's possible. So this is ETH-E. This is ETCG is an oscillator to ETH-E, just like ETH Classic to Ethereum. So 48, 65, 83, and we'll just say 95. We'll go with 95. Nice, easy, relatively round numbers. So 95 divided by, we'll say 20.50, roughly about a 4.6x. Again, Ethereum's not going to perform as good, in my opinion, as like the altcoin related ones, these ones down here. I could be wrong about that, but I mean, if we were going to see that, we would have seen the price of ETH go to new all-time highs, just like Bitcoin when the spot ETH ETFs got approved, and we didn't see that. So 107, 168, 230, and roughly, we'll just call this 275 or 270. So 270 divided by 20.5, looking at roughly about a 13x. Again, if you want to get a 13x on stocks, you got to invest in something like NVIDIA early on, or basically pretty much the gist of it is you would have to buy like a super small cap stock that's highly risky, probably not profitable, might have the chance of getting delisted. Again, there's a lot of risk there. We're trying to get a 13 to a 15, 20x in stocks. It's not that it's not possible. It's just that, you have to like understand news catalysts and balance sheets and stuff like that. So there's not really a swing high to swing low here, because again, in order to do like a local level, we have to have a previous swing high be higher than the current swing high. and we don't have that on this one. So basically from the all-time highs to the local low here, 630, 1,000, 1,380, and 1,600. So we go 1,600 at the top level divided by 36. And again, this is not out of the realm of possibility. This could totally happen. Filecoin itself did way more than this in the last cycle, so 44.7x. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you guys that right now. So let's go over to Filecoin real quick, because we do have a pretty large bag of this. So, and I'll make this quick because I know some of you guys can be pretty impatient. You don't want to sit here and talk about altcoins, but you guys can see basically the lows here of Filecoin. Okay, the lows were at like $2.50, and the highs, well, the all-time high, I should say, was all the way up here. You almost can't even see it, $240. Okay, so this thing did nearly 100x from the lows to the highs in the last cycle. So saying PhilG could do or FileG, whatever you prefer to call it, could do half that, I'd say it's definitely possible. Okay, so next one we got here, GBAT. Again, we're just going to do one retracement because the all-time high is during the current cycle, not the previous cycle. So we're looking at roughly about $50, $78, $109, and $125 respectively. So 125 divided by 5, pretty easy math there, 25x. Okay, next one, GLIV, same thing, only one retracement because, again, the all-time high is during the current cycle and not in the previous one. I will say that if we're still sitting at this level right here, I would be measuring from this area to this bottom here. But again, we have already hit all-time highs on this, so the measurement has to be a little bit different. It has to be forward-looking. So 122, 188, 255, and roughly, we'll just round it up and call it 300, 295 to 300. So 300 divided by 16, 18.75. Again, the reason why I'm using round numbers here is because when traders trade, they usually use round numbers as like a psychological level of resistance or support, like 20,000 on the NASDAQ, okay, or 18,500. Believe it or not, this is very, very common in trading. It happens all the time. So G-Link, same thing. We're just going to do one retracement here. So from the swing high to swing low, we're looking at roughly about 350, 545, 745, and 865 respectively. So 865 divided by 50. And again, I know this is not exact, but nice round numbers. That's what a lot of traders look at. I mean, Bitcoin last cycle topped out at 69,000, not exactly, but pretty close to that. So 17.3x. GSOL, yeah, this one's already broken all-time highs multiple times, so there's not really much to measure here. But again, I don't think the move on GSOL is going to be nearly as big as some of these other ones that have either not moved or been beaten down significantly. So I'm not bearish on GSOL, okay? For those of you guys that are like, oh God, he's bearish on GSOL. This guy is trying to pretend to be a bull when he's actually a bear, guys. I'm not a bear, okay? I'm just being realistic. Solana itself could go to $1,000, okay? This could easily hit the top fib target. I'm just saying it's already moved up massively since the bottom of basically the lows there. You can see it's a 13,000% gain. It's not going to move up as much as it would have from down here. Okay, let's just be realistic about it. So 780, roughly about 1100, 1430, and then 1650 respectively. Again, this is still not a bad return. I mean, you get a 4 or 5x on a token. That's considered to be relatively safe. So 4.6x. GXLM, I mean, I gotta admit, I'm impressed with that green candle. I think this thing could actually go quite a bit higher unless the Fed comes and kind of FUDs us next week, which again, I'm not of the mindset that the Fed's going to try to tank the markets. I just don't think so. So 104, 155, 210, and roughly about 240. I'll be talking more about this in depth in the coming days, okay? I don't think that the Fed's going to tank the market. What I do think is possible is that we get a massive rip on that day, and then we kind of get like some sideways chop and maybe a little up and down or something like that in crypto and stocks leading into elections, because again, there is some additional uncertainty there. And then once we get past that, then it will be basically moon time right after that. I think that's probably what's more likely to happen. So, and again, Bitcoin's not really supposed to rip to new all-time highs until basically around the time of the election. So it all lines up perfectly. So 10.4x here. Mana, again, we only got one retracement we can do here. So, and you know, Mana itself, the underlying token did a 200x last cycle. So I would say that this 4.236 could be like maybe a minimum. Well, I wouldn't say a minimum, but I would say that this is probably middle of the park. It could go actually much higher than that. Because I remember when I first got into crypto, I saw Mana as one of the tokens, and I kind of wrote it off like, yeah, okay, whatever. And some, you know, SHIT coin, right? Who cares? I didn't really understand the value of it. Okay, it was at 2 cents at the time of the bear market lows, and it went to $6. I wish I had bought some. I'm telling y'all right now. So 110, 177, roughly about, we'll say 235, and then 280 respectively. So this one you'd be looking at, again, I think the top fib here is kind of middle of the road for this particular project, roughly about a 28x. I mean, if Mana did a 200x last cycle, it's not really that ridiculous to think maybe it could do like a 40 or a 50x this cycle. Okay, so Zcash, this one we can do doubles on, so we're going to do doubles. All right, so local high to the local low here. We have roughly about 15, 22, 2860, and 34 respectively. So 34 divided by, we'll just call it $4, so 8.5x. And then if I do the previous macro high to the macro low here, or roughly about the macro low, we're looking at respectively roughly about $64, $103, $140, and $163 respectively. We'll round it up and say 165, because usually, like, when these crypto coins explode, they usually explode much more than people expect, even more than we expect. So just keep that in mind when we're doing these estimates. So 41.25x. Anyways, hope y'all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Peace.